What's been hot and not so hot so far in gaming for 2023? Hi there. Welcome back to Vertical Hold Behind the Tech News, the award-winning tech podcast where we catch up with Australia's leading technology journalists and commentators to dive into the big stories of the week. I'm Alex Kidman, and this week I'm all alone. But that's because this is our half-year gaming special, and Adam was initially very, very keen, but only if we were going to spend the entire show talking about strategies for 1942 in the arcade. And when I pointed out we had to cover a little bit more than that, he wasn't so keen. Oh, and by the way, spoiler, his strategy there is shoot the enemy planes before they shoot you. It's really kind of obvious when you think about it. But remember that and thank Adam the next time you play. But this leaves me without a co-host, so I need to find someone. They've got to be in Melbourne. Ideally, they've got to have a beard. And they've got to play a lot of games. Oh, I know. Yep. There's only one man I can call. From Kotaku, Australia, it's David Smith.
It's me. Hello, buddy. Good to see you.
Welcome back to the show. I hope you're ready to talk all things gaming in 2023.
I'm so ready. It's been a week full of gaming. With Summer Game Fest. We've had showcases. We got a lot to talk about.
Okay, so actually, I was not going to start on this week's particular topical news, but it's not a bad time because it's kind of the E3 that we had because we weren't having E3. What was big out of Summer Games Fest? What was big and notable in your eyes? And I know there's a lot, but just pick me out some highlights that you think people should know about.
Yeah. So I mean, probably the biggest game that we spoke about during Summer Game Fest across the entire week of E3 that was, I suppose we could call it now, would be Starfield. We got 45 minutes of the new Bethesda RPG. It's from the people who make Skyrim and Fallout. If you've played those games before, you've got an idea of what this game is going to play like. It will be very much in that vein. This one's set in space. You are in your own spaceship. You're going from planet to planet. They say they have thousands of worlds. I don't know how they're going to pull that off. It seems like a game that is dizzying in its scale, as those games tend to be. By far the biggest game of the show, I think. We got 45 minutes of a Starfield Direct right after the Xbox showcase. That was on Monday morning. We love getting up at 3 a.m. on a public holiday for a showcase. That was great.
Doesn't everyone?
Oh, so good. Phil, I'm begging. Please, mate, please. But it was worth it. Like, it was a really cool deep dive on a game that a lot of people are looking forward to. That one's out in September. Make sure you put in your leave now so you can take a couple of weeks and enjoy that one. Elsewhere, we had stuff like Ubisoft did a bit of a dive into Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is their sort of throwback, if you like, to older Assassin's Creed games, kind of in the vein of like Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed 3, open world games, but less sprawling, let's say, compared to some of the newer ones like Origins or Valhalla, which were massive, endless games, it seemed. Looking forward to that one. What else have we got on the list? Another one from Ubisoft was Star Wars Outlaws. That one looks really cool, hot on the heels of Jedi Survivor, which only released about 6 weeks ago. This one's coming out next year and very much casts you in the Han Solo role. You're you find yourself in a
scruffy-looking nerf herder.
A scruffy-looking nerf herder. You're in a wretched hive of scum and villainy, and you're looking for a way out. Looks really cool, really different for a Star Wars game. I'm really keen to play this one. Oh my God, I've got such a long list of games here. I can keep going if you want.
Well, I mean, and this is the problem, I suppose, with discussing games of any given year. There's just hundreds and hundreds of titles. So actually, just sending the focus backwards for now.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something, in fact, we did the last time that we did one of these shows, make you play a little game called Hyped or Flopped. So I will give you the title of a game, and I want you to tell me whether or not it lived up to the hype or not, basically.
Yep, let's go.
So we'll start with a fairly easy one, the remake of Resident Evil 4.
Oh, hype. Really good. Really loved it. That one took everything that I liked about the original Resident Evil and filed down the harder edges on that game. Made some interesting creative choices with it as well that I think were to its benefit. really good. Capcom is on a hot streak with those remakes. They're really crushing it.
Yeah, they're about to come into the maybe arguably less
Yeah.
good side of the Resi games.
Yeah,
So.
we're quickly running out of good Resident Evil mainline games, that's for sure. We'll see what happens after that.
And kind of keeping on this, everything old is new again. Like a Dragon Ishin.
Oh, this was one that I was really looking forward to because I love that series. I love Like a Dragon. It was used to be called Yakuza. Now it's called Like a Dragon. This one was a period piece. It was all sort of same characters and different names set in the sort of like feudal Japan and the samurai age. Really, really cool. I really, really liked it, but I dropped off of it faster than I did the mainline Yakuza games. It was just a different vibe. And in the end, I wasn't feeling it as much as the mainline Yakuza games. I don't know if I'd call it a flop, though.
Okay, so it didn't necessarily live up to the hype, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah, still pretty good.
Okay. Actually, sticking with retro, people who know me are going to be shocked, but I get to count this one for this year for once. GoldenEye 007.
Oh, you know what? Controversial. I'm going to say flop.
People can't, of course, see this, but I'm shaking my fist at you.
Yeah, he's very upset.
So, okay, why, in your view, is it a flop? Why doesn't it live up to the GoldenEye hype?
The port that was released on Xbox and Nintendo Switch earlier this year, I'm very happy that it's there. I'm all about video game preservation. Anybody who reads Kotaku regularly will know how big on video game preservation I am. It's important that modern machines are able to play this game, this really important game. I wish that the port that had been put up on those systems was better. It was in incredibly rough shape when it went up. There was a lot of bugs and performance issues that really hampered the experience. On top of that, GoldenEye is way better in my memory than it is in 2023 to play. It has not aged terribly well, which hurts me in my heart to say. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people writing me angry emails about this, but that's the reality.
I'm writing you one as we speak.
I know. I can see the hands moving on the keyboard as we speak. It hurts me. It injures me mortally to say that. I did not have an amazing time with that remake. Not the time that I was hoping to have with it, that's for sure. Not even a remake, just a straight port, you know?
Yeah, I never stopped playing it, so I sort of knew what to expect, but I can totally respect your viewpoint there. And they did that weird thing where the Switch version can do online, but the Xbox One can't. Although, admittedly, I will say this, I do think that is one of those games that just should be couch combat forever.
Totally.
Like, online is not actually where it should be.
100% agree. And I did think that, like, on the Switch, playing like that couch co-op multiplayer was real good. It still had that feeling. It still had that vibe of proper old school GoldenEye. It felt really, really good. Yeah, I wish I liked that. I wish I liked that re-release more.
So bouncing to probably, arguably, debatably, the biggest, most hyped game of the year, which I have to flag I've not played yet. I will hang my head in shame.
Mm-hmm.
I will get around to playing it, but I know it is going to totally take over my life when I do. Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh my gosh, a massive win. Massive, massive win. This is, like you said, game of the year. Yeah, I think it's the clear winner. I don't know how Nintendo have pulled this game off. I don't know how they pulled it out of the hat. It shouldn't work, is the reality. Like, this is a game that is built around construction. It's built around building your own items, machines, materials from scratch, from what you can find around the world using what they called Zonai devices, powered technology,
so without spoiling too much for me, because as I say, I haven't played it and I really do want to come into it fresh, they've taken the cooking stuff from Breath of the Wild and just gone nuts with it with everything, basically.
Hog wild, like to a scale that is like at the global scale. You can find these materials all around the world, and if you can think of it, you can build it. We're still running stories. Like we've run 2 stories in the last couple of days on Kotaku about the things that people have been building in this game. They've currently got working computers. I'm not kidding. And they're building musical instruments as well, like that will play specific songs, kind of like a player piano if you set them up correctly. The level of customization of it, like literally, if you can think of it, you can build it in this game, astounds me. Like, if you were to put this in any other system, I'm sure it would all fall apart. Nintendo gave their team, I believe, an extra year after the team felt the game was done and ready to ship, just to polish and make sure all of this stuff worked perfectly, and it does. Um, this is as close to a masterpiece as it gets. Quite frankly, I don't know how I don't know if Nintendo can get a third one out of this series because it's Tears of the Kingdom's just that good. My game of the year for sure.
It feels to me inevitable that at some point you're going to be running a story where someone's run Doom inside this game.
100%. I 100% feel that way. Like they're going to have hacked it and figured out how to get it to work.
Okay, on jumping to hardware, I'm sort of cheating on a games list, but not really. The PSVR 2.
Yeah. I was actually surprisingly like taken with that device. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Originally, when I saw the price tag, I was kind of thrown by it. For it to be more than a PS5 itself, which is the only device it works with, you can't use it with a PS4. None of the PS4 version of the old original PSVR 1 games work with it. There's no backwards compatibility. It sort of just felt like it had a lot going against it. Um, but it's really impressed me. Like it's a really sleekly designed headset. It's got a good weight and balance to it. The screens internally are really beautiful and quite clear. I believe you can actually get like custom prescription lenses for them now as well, which is really cool. Something you really only see on PC bound VR headsets. Horizon Call of the Mountain was the major AAA release that launched with that game, and it is gorgeous. Like it looks beautiful in the headset. Like a lot of VR games, a bit of a walking sim. You can knock some stuff around, interact with the world, and when it's over, you feel like you've had a decent meal, I guess you could say. But none of these experiences are terribly long. They're certainly immersive. It's certainly doing more and more interesting things than the first version of this hardware did. Uh, I'm pretty happy with it. I still think it's a little on the pricey side, but I am pleasantly surprised with the PSVR 2.
Are there any? I mean, my big concern with it, and it's the same concern that I had with the original, which is why I didn't pick it up,
Mm,
is that question of is there enough coming down the pipeline or there already? Because
yeah.
pretty much everyone says Horizon, yeah, that's great. And then it kind of gets a bit quiet.
That's true. That is 100% true. Like a lot of the launch window titles in particular were already available on other VR platforms. So it was a hard sell in that regard, certainly. I'm keeping an ear to the ground for new stuff coming for the PSVR 2, particularly stuff that's exclusive, because I think they're really going to need it if they want to ship units on it. I have not sort of seen much yet. I'm very much hoping, fingers crossed, it doesn't go the same way as the PSVR 1 did, where it's sort of at a certain point, it became a curiosity more
Mm.
so than like a gotta have it, a must own device. Um, I feel like Sony has everything they need to turn it into a must own device. They just need the games. They just need that software base.
Okay. The gaming industry loves a sequel. In the first half of this year, we have seen, for example, Street Fighter 6.
Mm,
Although my technically correct brain wants to say this should be like Street Fighter 35, maybe 45,
uh-huh. Yeah.
sequentially speaking. But did it live up to the hype and expectations that people had for it?
It did. It did. It's actually like, particularly amongst the fighting game community, like the competitive end of the Street Fighter fandom, it's going gangbusters. People really seem to like it. A massive step up in terms of like mechanics, in terms of game feel over Street Fighter Five, which had its ups and downs. Like the community came to accept that game for what it was, but it wasn't really what they wanted. Street Fighter Six feels much more in line with what the competitive field wants, as well as being a really smart introduction point for people who've never played a fighting game. It introduces what's called a world tour mode, which is like a single player campaign, but that whole single player campaign throws you into fights constantly over and over and over. The idea being it drills the mechanics of the game into you just through repetition. It's really smart. It's really fun. A great cast of characters, the special moves. If you played Street Fighter 2 like I did, like back on like
Mm.
the old arcade machines or on the Mega Drive or the Super Nintendo, you can still play Ryu. His moves have not changed. Like there's that there's that historical aspect to it. Like you can come back to it if you haven't played it in a long time and still understand how the game works, or you can dive in as a newbie in a way that you kind of haven't really been able to before and pick up the game really, really quickly through that single player mode. I'm really impressed. I think it's very good.
If they've done anything terrible to Chun Li, I will be very, very
She's
upset.
so powerful. Like I've seen a lot of people using her online. So yeah, no, she's in good hands.
Excellent, excellent. Staying on the sequel track, a game that I've got to admit I do not have a particular passion for, but I know tons and tons of
Mhm.
people do. Diablo 4.
Oh, I'm really enjoying. This is another one that I sort of wondered if I would enjoy it, and I am. I really am. I was concerned that the microtransactions and the sort of external economics, I guess, of this game were going to hold it back if it was going to put its hand out and ask for money the same way Diablo 3 did when it first launched. It doesn't. It's sort of, so far at least, it seems to be going out of its way to keep all of the real money transactions out of the way, and they don't affect your character's stats. Diablo 4, for those who haven't sort of played a Diablo game, is what's called an action RPG. It's a game where you're looking at your character from a top down perspective and you're gathering a bunch of loot to power them up to make them stronger. All of the loot in the game has different stats that you can manage and tweak to try and build your character in specific ways. There's lots of skills you can apply to them. It's hyper customizable. There is a subsection of gamer that absolutely sweats this type of game, that
Mm.
love it to death and have done since like Diablo 2 came out back in the early 2000s. This feels the closest to Diablo 2 that Blizzard has released since that game, and that's by design. The community wanted something that felt grimdark in that way again, and Blizzard has done its best to deliver while still trying to hang on to some of the more MMO inspired aspects of D3.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That is my list of hyped or flop, but I've probably
Way.
missed one or two. Is there anything else in the first half of this year that you've either played a lot of,
Mhm.
or that you felt did or didn't live up to the hype in that time span?
Oh man, I mean that kind of covers off a lot of what I've played. Much of what I'm playing right now, and I'm currently under embargo. I wish I could talk about it, but
It's
unfortunately I
always the
can't.
way.
There's a big one coming up. I'm sure if you look at the release dates page, you'll be able to figure out what it is, and I look forward to talking about that in the coming weeks.
Good, good. See, I'm looking forward to something which technically doesn't fall into the second half of the year, but which I'm going to shoehorn in here anyway. The upcoming and seemingly endlessly delayed AEW Fight Forever, but I'm possibly the
Hey,
only person who's keen on that one. I don't know.
You and Ruby are like ready to play that game.
Very, very, very ready indeed. Very ready indeed. But let us cast through to the second half of the year. We were just talking about how Nintendo fine tunes and polishes games.
Mm,
There's a lot of expectation around Pikmin 4, especially from my better
yeah.
half. It had better be good. Will
Yep.
it?
I know. Well, I'm hoping so. I really like this series. It's been a while. Another one where it's been a long time between drinks
Mm.
for Pikmin. Um, I'm really keen to see what they pull out of the hat here. This is sort of the last at the moment, Nintendo's in an interesting place. This is kind of the last major title that it has on its calendar
Mm.
for the time being. Read into that what you will. Is the Switch coming to the end of its life? Is Zelda going to be the bookend and this is an epilogue? We'll see.
Hey there, Alex Kidman here, just interrupting, well, myself, because when we recorded this, it was before Nintendo had even announced that they were going to hold a direct where they were going to announce a whole bunch of Switch games. So if you're wondering, hey, where's Super Mario Brothers Wonder? Why didn't they talk about Super Mario RPG? It's because when we were having this chat, they didn't exist. Now, back to the show.
I'm very keen to give it a try. It's a little strategy game. You play a little alien stranded on a world that kind of seems like Earth, but maybe you're just tiny. And it's covered in these little creatures called Pikmin. They're kind of like ants, different colors. They have little flowers that sprout from the top of their heads, and they all do different things when you throw them around. It's great fun. You can solve problems with them. And I think in this new one, there might even be skill trees and things like that. I'm looking forward to it. It's out later this year for sure.
We're also seeing the next Spider Man later this year. The
Yes.
inventively named Spider Man 2. Where do they come up with these names from?
Spider-Man 2, yeah. So this one, yeah, the follow-up from Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man, which came out on the PS4 some years ago. There was a spin-off in the midst there, Spider-Man Miles Morales, that came out around the time the PS5 did. This is the direct follow-on from that. You have the two Spideys in the title and in the game. They're bringing in like fan favorite villains like Venom to sort of fill out the roster. This just looks like more of a good thing, to be honest. Like the original Spider-Man on PS4 was a great game. It's one of the, I think it's the highest selling game on the PS4 to date, which was a console that sold an awful lot of games just by itself. Yeah, I mean, everything I've seen from this game looks like more of a good thing. It looks like Insomniac really nailed down how these games work, and they're just going to keep doing it. Good gear. Looking forward to it.
I've got to admit, for original Spider-Man, I was skeptical at first when it was first
Mm,
announced, just because of the fairly obvious similarity between it and the Batman Arkham games. And I
yes.
just kind of thought, oh, are they just doing the pale imitation here? But they really didn't. They actually
Mm,
captured that kind of hyperkinetic Spider-Man thing
yeah.
so very well. So yeah, I am happy for more of that. Miles Morales was not a long game, but gee, it was a good time while it
Real good,
lasted.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Um, we are also seemingly traveling back to the early 1990s because I could swear I would put money that I've played this game before, but somehow they're releasing Mortal Kombat 1 again.
Yeah, they're going back. This is like kind of like when EA did Battlefield 1 and they wanted to set it in a particular time period. Kind of a similar deal. Basically, the lore for Mortal Kombat, the story that drives these games, has gotten so tangled that we need to do a big old fashioned DC Comics universe reboot. So that's what we're doing. They're basically taking the Mortal Kombat story back to square one. Liu Kang is a god now, apparently, and has built a world in his own image where no one's going to do any fighting. We're not fighting anymore, except we are, and that's where the story's going to kick off from. Um, I mean, these are fun. Mortal Kombat is
Hmm.
still as much fun as it's always been. It's silly, it's violent, incredibly violent. Looking at the trailer that they released during Summer Game Fest, um, yeah, this looks fun. I'm going to play the hell out of this. This is great. It's kind of a you've sort of got six of one in Street Fighter Six and half a dozen of the other in Mortal Kombat. Something serious, something silly, and yeah, I'm sure the fighting game community is feeling pretty good right about now.
See, I've just been covering this area for just way, way too long because I've written way too many stories, it feels, and these are very old stories now,
Mm.
about how the latest Mortal Kombat was just going to be banned in Australia.
I know, I know. Will it happen again? We'll keep an eye out.
Well, presumably you're not doing lots of drugs, which seems to be always the thing that actually trips the senses
That's
these
true.
days.
That's true.
Um, we also talked about Like a Dragon Ishin. We're getting a new regular series one, The Man Who Erased His Name, and we had
Yeah.
a somewhat revealing trailer, shall we say, this
Mm.
week for
Yes.
that one.
I can't wait. My boy Kiryu is back. I'm really looking forward to playing this one. I really like the Like a Dragon
Mm,
uh, spin-off series with Ichiban, the new
mm.
character that they've come up with. But Kiryu's just got such a special place in my heart. Like I've played all of the mainline Yakuza games. I really love this character and the world that he inhabits. It is cool to get this new game. Well, is it new? I mean, realistically, we're just bringing this to the West, I believe.
Well, like,
Um,
yeah,
and it's you know
it's
what?
new to players.
It's new
That's
to
always a
me.
good. That's no bad thing.
That's right. It's new to me. I'm happy to play it. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. That's big on my list for the rest of the year for sure.
So, what else sits big on your list? Because I've kind of run through the stuff where I was going down the a voluminous list of things that are theoretically due out this year. Going, oh yeah, that. We haven't even talked about WrestleQuest, but again, that's
Oh
probably
my
just
god,
me.
that's so
Uh,
good. Isn't that a great idea? I love it.
spectacular, spectacular. A 16-bit looking wrestling RPG
Genius.
in that classic style. But again, that's a real niche market title. That is a
It is.
specific subset of people who are going to get into that. But speaking of your specific subset, what else is due out this year
Oh my
that's really jumping into your head?
goodness. I'm gonna say, I'm actually really, really keen to check out Assassin's Creed Mirage. Really, really interested in that one. Um, I much prefer the older Assassin's Creed games, the smaller, more contained open world
Hmm.
games that they used to make up until about, I think the last one was Syndicate several years ago. Um, I love that style. I love that vibe of those games. I'm really happy to see Ubisoft throw it back to that. Ubi's kind of in a space where they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, I think, with Assassin's Creed, where they're like, we're going to do those small ones, but we're still going to do the giant ones as well. So if you want either one, we're just going to do that and we'll alternate on those. We'll see how that works out for them. I hope Mirage does the kind of business that they're looking for, where they continue to make those kinds of Assassin's Creed games. But yeah, for me, I think that's a big one for the remainder of the year for sure. We've also got the Cyberpunk 2077 expansion, Phantom Liberty, that's coming out also in September. God, September is going to be a big month for
So
RPGs.
when does the patch come out to make it playable?
Ooh, I mean, this might be it. I mean, they're still they're still patching it. Yeah, I'm interested to see like uh, what if anything can be done to save that game. It's kind of in the best. It's in the best place that it's been so far now, which I mean, it's not saying a lot, but it's certainly saying something. It's come a long way from where it was when it launched pretty disastrously.
Mm.
Um, this expansion will basically be the full stop on the end of the sentence that is Cyberpunk 2077. There was originally going to be several expansions. Now they're just doing the one. It's going to be a big one. They've got Idris Elba in it. Keanu Reeves is coming back. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they tie this up. And yeah, what further quality of life improvements CD Projekt Red can squeeze in there.
Fair enough. We've talked a lot about mainly kind of AAA big game studio
Mm.
games. Anything in the indie space that, well, in fact, we haven't even talked about much in the indie space for the first 6 months of the year, but anything in the from the indie space in the first 6 months or coming
Oh,
in the latter 6 months that you're particularly keen on?
there's a bunch. A couple that I've had my eye on for the last few months has been there's been actually been a demo of it go up on Steam. I think today was Jump Light Odyssey, which is made by League of Geeks here in Melbourne. It's a beautiful Aussie-made game. If you've tried to describe the aesthetic, think of like old like 70s, 80s sci-fi anime like Star Blazers. It's that kind of a vibe to it. It's a colony sim, so you're building a small little society on a starship, kind of like the way at the beginning of the Battlestar Galactica reboot, they were jumping to stay one step ahead of the Cylons. If you remember those episodes from way back at the
Mm.
start of that show, it's a similar kind of thing. They're moving to try and keep away from an invading force. But it's very lighthearted. It's very cartoony, very sweet. And I like the idea of building this little colony and trying to help them survive on this little starship. A great little Australian game. That one's out. I think it might be later this year. I'm not sure if they've set a confirmed date. I'm hoping to play it very, very soon. The demo is out, so I'm going to get to play a little bit of that. That's on Steam. What else have we got? One I've been keeping an eye on, another one called Wood and Weather. That's by um, Paper House Studios here in Melbourne as well. That is a little god game. If you kind of remember stuff like Black and White, you played like a hand floating over the world and you could interact with
Oh,
different
God, I
things.
played so much Black and White back in the
Such a
day,
good
till well,
game.
till it crashed, which it inevitably did. But
Such a good game. Isn't it a shame you can't buy a copy of that one today? I wish they'd
mm,
bring it back. But a similar kind of vibe with Wood and Weather. You're moving around a small town and trying to I don't know if you're trying to make people's lives better, but you're certainly interfering with people's lives. You're certainly making things happen. And you do this by changing the weather. If someone needs to be moved out of your way or out of another citizen's way, you could change the weather so that it's raining and maybe they run for cover, that kind of thing. Maybe you bring in a storm or like you send hail down, something like that. There's lots of different puzzles to solve, lots of little social problems that you need to solve, and you do it by manipulating the weather on a wheel. It's such an interesting concept. I'm really excited to see how that one pans out. I believe that is also set for launch later in the year, and I think they may also have a demo on Steam that you can try out.
excellent, excellent. And your bias for Melbourne-based developers is
There's a
duly
lot of them.
noted.
There's a lot of them.
There,
They're making good
it's
stuff.
it's a good thing that we should have a vibrant Australian game scene, no matter where you are.
100% agreed.
Well, that just about wraps up this week's episode of Vertical Hold. Thanks to David for joining me this week.
You bet, mate. Anytime.
And now it's time, as it always is, for the Vertical Hold 3 questions of doom. I'll ask all three. You may answer them in any order you like. You may use a random number generator to choose that order, but pretty much everyone always does it in the straight order for whatever reason. Where can people find your work online? Where can they find you on whatever social media you choose to inhabit these days? And if I were to do a desert island discs to you and say, right, you're going to an island, there will be power, there will not necessarily be internet, you can't escape, but you can escape into the world of games and you can have one game to play while you're stuck there. What's that game going to be and why?
God, that's a good one. Well, you can find me on kotaku.com.au. It's a website. It's about video games. You can come and see us anytime you like. You can find me online at Twitter. I'm Runewords. That's RHUNWORDS. And you can find me on pretty much any social media platform with that name. What am I taking to a desert island? I've got it down to 2. I'm going to say Vampire Survivors. I'm going to take Vampire Survivors. If you haven't played that one, it's very much got like an old school Castlevania on the NES kind of look to it. But it is kind of a horde mode wave survival game where your character never stops attacking. They're always attacking, but hordes of monsters are crowding in on you at all times. Your goal is to take out as many monsters as you can, pick up little blue gems. It powers you up. And as you power up, you gain more attacks, more moves, more ways to clear that crowd and become ever more powerful. It is like crack. It is so good. I can't stop playing it. It came out last year. It was my game of the year. I love it so much. I could keep playing it forever. The other game I was going to say was Sea of Thieves, which I could also play forever, but it is server dependent, and maybe they'll take the servers down on me at some point. Vampire Survivors wouldn't do that to me.
Also, you're stuck on a desert island. Do you really want to see that much water in a game?
That's true. I would have that going for me. I mean, at least I'd have the fantasy of getting on a boat and sailing away from the island. But when I stopped playing the game, it would be pretty grim, wouldn't it?
And having asked that question, I immediately thought of the game that I would choose, and it's reminded me of something that might be relevant.
Yeah.
So we're going to rewind, listeners, because we're going back to one more thing, maybe. I'm not sure that this one's coming out this year, though, because the game that I would choose, because I can just iterate on it endlessly, is Hades.
Oh, totally.
And we have the sequel. We know the sequel for that is coming, but is that this year?
I don't think that's this year. No, I think it might be early next year.
Then I shall have to take just Hades to my own desert island.
It's so good. That's a good pick.
While we cast off to our own personal gaming desert islands, you can catch up with the Vertical Hold crew online at Vertical Hold AU on Twitter, on Instagram, the Vertical Hold Facebook page, or at verticalhold.com.au. And as Adam would say if he wasn't busy working on his 1942 high score, thanks everyone for listening in. Don't forget to drop us a line and tell us what you think about the show and which games you've played this year or are looking forward to for the second half of the year.